And I'm Director of Exhibitions and Educational Programs at the Irving Arts Center. I've been there for almost 30 years. I can't believe it, but it's been a good run. It's still a good run. I've done lots of things there. I was originally hired to be a writer and editor of the monthly news publication there, and to also take over the curatorial duties. And over the many years, I've continued with curatorial work, as well as developing public programs, youth programs, classes, special projects, etc. So I've had an opportunity to work with some really fascinating artists, both local as well as international. Worked with a lot of different museums and other institutions, have mounted a few special projects, special exhibitions, such as the Genghis Khan and the Peruvian Gold. I kind of wear a lot of different hats at the Arts Center. So what we're going to do this evening is I'm going to share my screen in just a minute, and I'm going to take you on a virtual tour of the 5 galleries at the Arts Center. And we'll look at the current exhibitions. I'll talk some about the artwork and about the artist. We'll conclude with a quick look at the newest addition to the City of Irving's Department of Arts and Culture, the Irving Archives and Museum. We'll take a look in that space and at one of the temporary exhibits there. And then I hope there'll be plenty of time for questions and answers. As Sharon said, probably the chat function is the best option while the presentation's going on. I'll be, again, sharing my screen, and it'll be a little difficult for me to keep track of people while I'm looking at my other screen, but we will get together at the end. So Sharon, if you are comfortable with starting the program, I will.
Oh yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I will share my screen now. And so you should be seeing the homepage of the Irving Arts Center's website. Can everybody just kind of nod or put their thumb up if that's what you're looking at? Should say Irving Arts Center. Okay, great. So we're going to utilize this great technological tool called Matterport, in which we've been able to create virtual tours, 360 tours, in which you can physically navigate your way through the physical spaces of the Arts Center through the magic of digital technology, photography, and videography. So to get to those, you can go to our website, irvingartscenter.com. I'm going under Galleries, and I'm going to click on IAC Online Art. So this is a new microsite. It's actually separate from our main website, but it's linked to it. And this is where we're housing all of our online exhibits and our 360 tours. So I will go ahead and get us started. I am gonna, wait, let's just take us to the home page for that. So if you wanted to do this on your own or refer a friend to tour the Arts Center virtually themselves, again, you can access through this through our website. And here are all the exhibits that we have these 360 tours for. So I'm going to start us with the North Lake College student photography exhibit. Mainly because this takes us to the east entrance, and it's just a nice way to kind of virtually enter the building and talk about the building as we make our way around. So this east entrance is right off the sculpture garden. It's right in the front. It's up near where our administrative offices are. And we are using that foyer area and the front hallways as a regular exhibition space now. We call it the Courtyard Gallery. And actually, we featured a few Irving Art Association exhibits in this space. The annual animal art competition, we've featured the winning pieces from it a few years in a row. But we have all kinds of exhibits focusing a lot on community based shows. So when you come on this page, you get this really kind of cool doll's house view of the space, a floor plan space, a brief description of the exhibit. And then as you scroll down, you can actually enter and navigate through the space. So this exhibit features North Lake College students, photography students, advanced photography students. And these are selections from their 2019 advanced portfolio class in which they explored the genre of environmental photography. So there's about 12 different photographers or students represented with about 26 different photographs, both in color and in black and white. And environmental portraiture is actually portraits of people in their settings of their homes or where they work or other places that tell a lot about that person, that kind of reveal their interest, reveal their personality, the environment in which they're photographed, illuminates some aspect of their life or their personality. And it's a genre that has been around for a while. It really blossomed in like the mid 20th century with photographers such as Annie Leibovitz and Arnold Newman. He's a very well-known environmental portraitist in photography. Okay, so I'm going to enter the space, so to speak. Again, we've got that funky dollhouse floor plan view. I'm going to get us into full screen. So as we enter from the doors off of the sculpture garden, on the left, you can see our administrative offices. Straight ahead is our courtyard. And if we were continuing down the hallways, we would run into the main gallery. And we'll go in there shortly and spend some time in that exhibit. I did want to point out some pieces from this show, which I think are very interesting. North Lake College is actually known now as Dallas College North Lake Campus. DCCD has rebranded themselves and all their campuses are Dallas College, hyphenated, North Lake Campus, Eastfield Campus, El Centro Campus. But at the time we organized this show, it was just North Lake College. So I want to point out a few of the pieces. So this is a cool feature. So all of the pieces are photographed and you can move through the space like you're standing in front of them. But we also have this feature where you can zoom in and see a high resolution image, which is really handy, especially when photographing works under glass or acrylic. You have a lot of glare to deal with. This piece is El Zapatero by Joe Roldan. And I think this is a really nice example of environmental portraiture. We have this gentleman who is a shoemaker, and it shows him in his place of work, in his workshop, with all the accoutrement of his occupation. We really have a wonderful sense of who he is and what he does, and a very nice black and white print. So a little bit further down the row, we have another one of his pieces that I wanted, two more of his pieces that I wanted to point out. Again, by Joe Roldan. This is Manos Trabajadores, working hands. And I like this one because it is a portrait, but it's not conventional of the face. But again, you have a sense of the person and who that person is and what that person does. It's a great sense of motion and dynamism and capturing a moment in it. And it's another way of looking at the art of portraiture. So, these aren't, a lot of standard portrait photography is the subject goes into the artist's studio. They're out of their own environment. They go into the artist's studio and they often stand in front of a blank or a contrived space or setting. And they're kind of removed and set apart from things that define them. But the environmental portraiture kind of gives more of a complete picture of the individual. Uh, let's see, one more from Joe Roldan. Again, we're back in the shoe repair shop. This is the shoe shine person, El Boleador. Again, I like this one. I like the contrast of the black and white. It always kind of lends kind of a documentary feel, but also kind of a timeless feel. He's not looking straight at us, but we definitely get a sense more of a kind of a candid shot, capturing him in his space, doing things that he does. It's not the whole picture of the person, but it is one key aspect of that person's life. I'm going to navigate us over to the other side. Wanted to point out another photograph for you that I like. This is Gabe Cano. We're going to get to that. There we go. This piece is called CEO. And I love this piece. It's obviously a business owner. She has a small stall, but it is her domain. It is her business. She is in charge of it. She obviously does a lot of different jobs and not just being the CEO. She's the owner, probably primary operator. And I love how standing on this counter, we see her both working. She's probably hanging that sign, but it also kind of also gives her an elevated status. So it's kind of a little witty, a little tongue in cheek about this woman who's her own boss. Okay, we're gonna move down the space. I beg your patience with that in navigating this, but you can kind of move around. You can tilt up and see the ceiling. You can look at the floor. These blue stickers that you're seeing are directional stickers due to COVID to direct people to kind of keep the traffic moving in a two-way fashion, to keep people 6 feet physically distanced. We've added digital signage in here. Exhibit continues along the hallway, and that's what we're going to do. So as we get closer, we can kind of see into that interior courtyard, which is quite lovely. We're going to turn the corner. And it's going to take us into one of the side hallways of the courtyard gallery. We'll just look at a couple of pieces here real quick. This is Andy by Melinda Casanova. And again, we have another view of a person within their domain of work or occupation. This man in his electronics workspace. I love the kind of informality of the posing of the subject. It makes a nice contrast to all these kind of sharp edges and hard electronic and metal components. But he does look very much at home, very much at ease. And again, I think a good use of black and white photography. The piece by it is fun. It's kind of a nice contrast to the portrait of Andy. We've got this portrait of Carol and Bug. Nice contrast, it's color, obviously. But this one's kind of, she's very much at ease, but very playful. She's with her cat named Bug, And we get a lot of clues about who she is as a person, what she's interested in, what she likes. She's definitely a cat lady. She's got cats, outlines of cats on her shirt. She's got the feline park inspector newsletter. We see her at work with her iPad or tablet. We see her camera, so we know she's interested in photography. We also see Judy Pearson's cat. Thank you. Nice thematic connection there, Judy. Good timing. But we also see on her desk, we see cat treats as well as human treats. We see the flowers, the light. It's a very warm, engaging, fun, kind of lighthearted image of this person. So again, different ways of kind of depicting people and their personalities and the spaces they inhabit, whether they live, work, or play in them. She's got this interesting collection of fairies and sprites behind her. So we really kind of get this very layered um, sense of who this person is. One more photograph on this hallway I wanted to point out. Again, these are all students. We're with the Dallas County Community College District. A lot of students are non-traditional students, meaning they're of all ages. Some of them are adults, working adults, senior citizens. Some of them are of college age. So we have people that come from all kinds of backgrounds, all ages, all different levels of experience. And I think that just kind of adds a richness, thinking about all the diversity of the backgrounds that these people come from. This piece by Bernice Arzate of Elizabeth. I like this one because her environment is actually whited out. She's either through intense lighting or a white backdrop, but we get that sense because of her sporting equipment, her uniform. This is obviously a young girl who's an athlete, but it also pays homage to Richard Avedon, who was a very influential American photographer. He did a project called American West, in which he traveled all through the West and took pictures of people, just everyday people, pulling them from their environments and putting them in front of this white backdrop so that you were totally focused on their physical being, their face, all the details of their face, their clothing, every wrinkle, every freckle, every torn and frayed aspect of their clothing. And I really feel that Bernice was probably looking at Richard Avedon when she was doing her assignment. So I'm going to take us back to the center.
Marcy, is there anyone in the waiting room that you can tell?
Let me take a quick,
I
can't really see. Wait. No, it doesn't look like anyone is.
Okay, good.
Okay. So we're going to hit our way back up to the front. Again, I promised you a virtual tour, and here we go. We're getting back to the center of the space. We're going to go down this hallway. And exhibits normally change out anywhere from 4 weeks to 5 months. Each space kind of has its own schedule of exhibitions. However, many of these exhibitions have been held over for longer periods of time because of the the coronavirus pandemic and the shutdown and various difficulties of operating and being closed for a while. So we've had this exhibit up for a while. It will end on January 30th. Let's see. I think I'll just point out one more to you. I like this photograph a lot, Old Soldiers by Lisa Howard. Again, great use of black and white. We're looking at an older gentleman. I'm pretty sure that's a photograph of him when he was younger, when he was serving in the armed forces. He's probably attending a veterans event, a parade, a memorial, holding a picture of himself. He and his framed photograph are wrapped in the plastic, I guess, against the elements. It might be sprinkling. It just kind of reinforces maybe the preciousness of that image and what it means to him, how important it is, his status as a veteran, the time that he served, and watching him and looking at his younger face. It's just a nice juxtaposition of age, of time. Again, the sense of honor, of pride conveyed with that. So if we were to continue down the hallway, we would reach one of the set of the doors that leads us into the main gallery. We can't get there from this virtual tour, but we can peek in. What we're looking at is back from March when we had the Irving ISD elementary art up. Every year we devote at least 6 weeks in the main gallery in the spring to showcasing the work by Irving ISD students, elementary, middle, and high school. And that's what we're seeing in there. Okay, so I'm gonna get us back up to the front. We're gonna exit this space and take a look into the main gallery. And while we're doing that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Art Center. Some of you may not have been to the Art Center before. Some of you might be incredibly familiar with it. Here's those east doors. We look through, we can see a little bit of the sculpture garden out there. So the Art Center is built on land that was gifted by Ben and Betty Carpenter back in 1980. He's the big businessman and real estate developer who founded Las Colinas. So we actually gifted the land we're built on. And in 1986, the first phase of the Art Center was built, which includes this front section where we have administrative offices and the main gallery, which we'll go to in just a second. And then that opened in 1986. The second phase, the theaters opened in 1990. The sculpture garden opened in 1996. Okay, so that was a courtyard gallery. So now we're going to move into the main gallery where we're going to spend a little more time. And I'm just going to take another quick look to make sure that no one else is in the waiting room. Okay, great. Okay, so this is our beautiful main gallery. It is our big grand space. It's about 3,800 square feet, over 200 linear feet of wall space. The ceilings are almost 30 feet high. We host and or organize exhibitions in there year round, about anywhere from 11 to 13 exhibitions in here a year. And this is the space in 1986 when the first phase of the Art Center opened that the Irving Art Association organized its very first Texas and Neighbors regional competition. And they organized it in honor of the opening of the Art Center. And it was hung in the main gallery. And every year since, in the spring, we have Texas and Neighbors. The 36th annual is coming up. And this is a very prestigious exhibition that the Art Center and the Art Association work together to co-sponsor, co-present, and co-mount. So, okay, we're going to get ourselves into that 3D virtual space. I also wanted to point out that on a lot of these landing pages, we have additional resources, additional information on the artist. For example, we have the webinar that we hosted in October. It was a conversation with the Juji Morales. You can view that in its entirety. We also have our website if you wanted to check that out. Okay, so I'm going to load this tour and take us in the Juji Morales exhibit. So again, you've got these cool dollhouse views, floor plan views, kind of cool. kind of interesting. We're gonna open a little bit of a video highlight. It's going to kind of take us on a little auto-generated view. I'll let that go for just a second. So the exhibition is Juji Morales Soñador. That is Spanish for Juji Morales Dreamer. And the title takes its name from her most recent publication, Dreamers. She is an award-winning children's book author and illustrator. And this exhibition features about 15 books that she's worked on. Some of them she's just done the illustration. 6 of them in the show are ones that she has been both author and illustrator. She's a 6-time recipient of the Pura Belpré Award, which is an award for a Latinx illustrator and author of books that reflect the Latino experience and excellence in children's literature. She also has the distinction of being the first Latinx illustrator to ever receive the Caldecott Honor Award, which is cool, but I also find kind of astounding. And that was in 2015 for her book on Frida Kahlo. So I'm going to utilize some of our tour highlights, still photographs to kind of get us around in this space. So, no, back there. So as we walk in the front doors, the north doors into the main gallery, this would be the first wall that we would see. It would be right in front of us. And this features an illustration from her book, Viva Frida, the book on Frida Kahlo. If you were to look to your left, and I'll just kind of swivel around so you can see our north doors. There we are, and you can see into the Carpenter lobby, see our Smithsonian affiliate flag. So you'd come in, and this is where you'd be. So I'm going to start with the illustrations from her book, Dreamers, Soñadores. Just a little background on Juji Morales. She's from Mexico. She was born in Jalapa, also known as the City of Flowers, in 1968. She immigrated to the United States in 1994. She had married an American citizen and had a child with him, and they decided to move back to the United States. She was following her husband. Her son, Kelly, was just a baby at the time. Juji did not speak English. She had gone to university in Jalapa, and she had majored in physical education, and she was a swimming coach. But when she came to the United States, she left everything behind, really. So she was coming to make a new life with her new husband and her baby boy. And that is what this book is about. It was published in 2018, and she received another Pura Belpré for this book. So I'm going to take us to this wall, and I'm going to move us down a little bit. So these pieces, these illustrations for Dreamers, she really utilized a variety of media. So a lot of her early work are acrylic paintings on paper. So what we're seeing in this exhibition are the original works of art that she created for these books that she either authored or that she was the illustrator for. Dreamers, she utilized both painting and drawing, but also the use of digital collage. So we see an amalgamation of that. She also used a really cool technique where she would draw or paint in outlines of elements of her illustrations and then use her vast library of photographs that she had taken of different textures and colors, everything from a masonry wall to textiles to kind of fill in the spaces of that object. So what we're seeing here is a digital print that utilizes drawing, painting, photography. This banner here that says Yuji Morales, that is actually her embroidery that she incorporated by collaging it into the composition. This is the cover of the book. This is Juji herself. So again, it's an autobiographical story. This is Juji and her son, Kelly. And you'll see throughout the book a lot of animal imagery. You'll see the swallow many times. You'll see the monarch butterfly. And they do have special significance. They have wings, but they're migratory animals. And that kind of plays a thematic aspect into travel, into migration, into home. So this is an early image from the book. This is when Juji and Kelly, her baby, kind of make that crossing, that physical, literal, and metaphorical crossing into a new world, into the new land. So she's coming from Mexico into the United States, and she stands on this hill or this bridge or this precipice and looks out into the new world in which she's coming in, hoping to make a better life for herself and for her son. And you've got this wonderful imagery of the bats, again, the migratory animal. You see our monarch butterfly. You see this wonderful snake up in the sky, whether it's delineating a constellation for us or not, but that has a wonderful thematic and iconic ties to Mexican culture and religion. But we're looking at her here. She's got a backpack on, which is very important to the story symbolically. Obviously, she's a traveler. She's coming to a new place, but it also symbolizes all the things that she's bringing from home. Her stories, her family, her tradition, all the things that make her who she is. She's carrying that into her new life. You can see she's holding her baby in her arms, and we'll kind of revisit that image in a minute. I'll talk a little bit about her skirt right now because that's an important image throughout the book. It has kind of two different reference points. One is that it makes a reference to her clothes that she had in Mexico, clothes that her mother made her as a child. Her mother sewed and embroidered almost all the clothes that the family wore. And Juji came from a home with 3 or 4 other siblings. And her mother was very artistic herself in the domestic arts. Again, she crocheted, embroidered, sewed, and had made Juji a skirt from when she was a child out of different pieces of material. And so its place in this image is Juji coming to this new place, this new world, the United States, kind of wearing her clothes from Mexico. And she talks about in different interviews and when we had our webinar about how she felt a little insecure about, did she have the right clothes? Was she going to be acceptable? Were people going to look at her strangely wearing her clothes? So there's that aspect of kind of bringing her history with her. But also there's another kind of history or symbolic connection in that the Aztec deities, the female deities, are known, many of them, by their Nahuatl names that translate to things like skirt, or she with skirt of jade, or she with skirt of snakes. And so these female deities that represent, water, the streams, rivers, baptism, storms, childbirth, which is she wears a skirt of jade, as well as another deity who is known as she with skirt of snakes, who's sort of the mother goddess. Um, so these deities, these powerful female deities, wear their symbols of power as elements of their clothing. And so Juji has adopted this. And so we look at it and we think, what is that? Are those flames? Are those feathers? What could be her secret power? And her story unfolds for her discovering that, and we will find out as well. I'm going to move us back down on the wall, take us here. So we're going more in the order of the book. So she and Kelly arrive. They eventually arrive in San Francisco because that's where her husband's family was located. And she talks about coming to a place where there's words everywhere and she doesn't know what they mean. She didn't speak English. She feels very kind of strange, a little alienated, kind of in a world, in a place that she doesn't understand. However, what happens is that through her mother-in-law, who takes them to a public library, well, I jump ahead of myself. We're still talking about her orienting herself in her new place in California. Again, about not understanding the language, not understanding a lot of things about the culture, making mistakes, as she terms them, of misunderstanding, not understanding the map, not understanding that the public fountain is maybe not a place for her little kiddo to swim. But again, just kind of feeling like a stranger. And that changes when her mother-in-law takes her to the library, to the public library, and a whole world opens up for her. I mentioned that she was a swimming coach in Mexico, but as a child, she did like to write and draw, and she made little handmade books, and she always enjoyed that. And her parents encouraged her creativity, but it never occurred to her that she could be an artist. That seemed like kind of an exotic, kind of, something that another kind of person would do. So she always kind of had that interest in those tendencies. But when she came to the public library in San Francisco, or the Bay Area, it just opened a whole new world for her. And she really became entranced with children's books, with illustrated children's books. And with the wonderful illustrations, the stories, this is how she learned English. This is how she helped teach her child English. And she really, it was love at first sight, she said. That's something that she wanted to do. So you kind of see this kind of wonderful, this kind of round fisheye convex compositional device that she uses. It's very, it'll reappear in a lot of her work. And I think it kind of symbolizes that kind of encompassing, welcoming, embracing, warm environment that just kind of pulls you in, and the library did pull her in. See the wonderful butterfly appearing again. Let's see. So another depiction from the library about how she and her son discovered new worlds. The world kind of literally opened up to her when she opened these books. They could travel anywhere, do anything. I mean, really, this book is kind of a love letter to libraries and to the power of children's literature and children's books, as much as it is a story about Juji herself. And also kind of exploring her working method. I mentioned that she used her library of digital photographs of different textures and colors, how she incorporated them into her compositions. You'll see this Jolo dog depicted many times. This is a dog of Mesoamerica and Mexico. It's been around since ancient times. You'll find it in Maya and Aztec imagery and lore. You see this dog reappearing. And the pattern that she used to kind of color in her Xolo dog here is actually an old skirt that she had of material that she got in Mexico. So again, kind of making those ties between her new life, her new world, and her roots, her roots and her origins. Excuse me, we'll get there. So again, kind of a whole new life, making a new life, making a new stories, kind of finding her passion, finding her career. And this image just really depicts it so beautifully. We've got her Xolo dog again. We've got little Senor Calavera, her little skeleton puppet. We've got the monarch butterfly. We've got her literally creating a book for herself and her son. And I think we're finding out at this point what Juji's secret power is, what her strength is. And this is a skirt made of paper. Paper is her secret power. Paper for stories, paper for her art, paper for her illustration. So she's creating her own world here. And we've got one more image to look at. It's near the end. So this is towards the end. I love this image. These are actually scanned pages from both Kelly's little books and sketchbooks that he made. So he was born around 1994. This was published in 2018. So she had a whole childhood worth of children's art to mine there. But it's also scanned from a book that she made, some of her childhood sketches. So she's incorporated those in there, and she's holding Kelly up. He's flying. A book is like wings for him. He's a winged creature like the monarch butterflies. He's really soaring and flying. And her backpack is open, the things that she brought with her to create a new life. It's been opened, it's been shared, it's been realized. And I just want to contrast that with little Kelly up here soaring with his wings of a book to one of the first images of the book when they arrive, when she's looking out with maybe a anticipation, maybe a little trepidation, kind of in awe, a little intimidated. She's holding her baby close. And the image that we just looked at, she's able to lift up her child and he is able to soar, and so is she. So it's a beautiful book. It was deliberately released at a time when the U.S. policy towards immigration was a little rocky, a little controversial. Her publisher told her that it was time to tell her story, and so she did. Youth Dreamers doesn't really refer to DACA. I mean, it does have a connection to immigration. She came over legally, but it is her statement about how all immigrants come over with their dreams of a better life, dreams of creating a better life for their children, and the ability to use imagination and to create new stories. See, I'm just going to check the time here. We are spending a lot of time in the Juji Morales exhibit. But the work is so wonderful. I hope everybody's doing okay and staying with me. Okay, so we're going to look at some of her other work. We're looking at pieces from Todos Buenos Manos. And this is the first book that she illustrated, 2000-2001. So when she came over, as I mentioned, the experience of the libraries and children's books really had a huge impact on her. She started taking classes in creative writing and illustration through extension classes, like from the University of California, Berkeley. She was attending conferences for children's book illustrators and writers. And through these connections, she met Isabel Campoy, who's a very influential poet and author and a big proponent of bilingual education. And so Isabel invited her to illustrate this book from 2001, All the Good Hands. And it's a book about community, about all the people that live and work in the community using their hands, um, the work they do that contributes to society, the hands that they reach out that connects people in the society. And I think we really see the beginnings of Gigi's style here. This kind of warm use of color, beautiful color, vibrant color, very luminous. This kind of use of, again, the kind of circular composition. We've got these nice kind of textured spirals in the sky, but just this sense of a little bit of a compressed space, but one that welcomes us in. And we see all these different people in the community that use their hands, musicians, artisans, artists, parents who engage with their kids. Again, just kind of a wonderful tribute to society and to the people who make it work and connect with one another through their work. I love this.
We've got a couple of questions.
Oh, okay, sure. Do you want to just read those to me, or it's a little hard for me to pull up the chat right now?
Oh, okay. Marianne is asking, are you, I don't know how to say that name, Yuyi?
Juji?
Juji. Images digital or paint on paper or canvas? And also, is there a description of the pieces on the virtual tour like what you're describing?
Yeah, limited. Okay, to answer the first part of the question, a lot of the work is acrylic paint on paper. There's a few sketches in there. The later work, a lot of it is digital, again, in which she has combined both drawing and painting as well as digital collage and adding digital elements. So it's kind of the whole range. And then we'll look at her pieces from Viva Frida, which actually utilize 3D work and photography. So there's kind of the whole gamut. Again, I'll just kind of point out that kind of wonderful circular arc, again, that's warm and friendly. It's a cityscape. It's not imposing, but again, very warm and inviting. The show has some labels just for each section of work. So for each book that's represented, there's some information about the books and the media. I pointed out earlier on these landing pages, there are more resources, and there's that webinar from October that talks at length about some of her working methods as well. Okay. So I'm going to take us to her work for Viva Frida. I think these are well worth taking a look at. So this is from 2015 and 2014, 2015. And this is the book that she received the Caldecott Honor Award for. That is one of the highest honors for children's books illustrators. So there's the Medal Award and then there's the Honor Awards. And she was the first Latinx illustrator to ever receive the Caldecott Honor. So the images in this book is about Frida Kahlo. It has minimal text. It's very poetic, very lyrical, minimal text. It's bilingual. And the images are actually photographs of these dioramas or vignettes that Juji created. Um, and she made all the elements. So she made these 18-inch figurines, these puppets. She modeled them. She made all the clothes. I did all the embroidery. I made all the other features, all the other props and animals, these little miniature cut paper banners. Um, Created these, again, these beautiful vignettes, and Tim O'Meara photographed them. So the book is mostly these photographs of these 3D dioramas, also interspersed with painting and drawing. Frida Kahlo, this depicts her with some of her menagerie. She was known for her love of animals and for her pets. She actually did have a pet deer. She had a pet monkey. Of course, she had a little Jolo dog and a parrot. And the whole book, the whole illustrations really celebrate kind of a joy in life and in her art and her creativity. I mean, she did have a very, she did face a lot of struggles physically with her health, but this story kind of focuses on her joy that she took in her art and in her life. So we've got three pieces from the show. Oh, I just to kind of answer the previous question. Here's the label for this group of paintings or from illustrations. I'm going to take you to the other two pieces so you can have a close look. I love this one. This is utilizing both drawing and painting and collaging. Again, you'll see a lot of floating, a lot of flying, a lot of airborne creatures in her work, often with the human figures doing the floating and the flying. And again, I think it just kind of adds to sort of the magical quality, kind of the surreal quality of some of the images. This is an interesting depiction of Frida. I mean, she actually has little wings or little cloud wings on there, so she is soaring. I believe the arrows make a reference to a self-portrait by Frida Kahlo that she depicted of herself as a wounded deer, a deer with a human head. It was her head shot through with arrows, and it was a commentary on her physical ailments, her physical wounds, and the many operations and surgeries she suffered through during her life. You can also kind of see her earring. It's a little hand milagro, a little medal, and it makes reference to a pair of silver earrings that Pablo Picasso gave her in the 1930s or 40s that she wore. So just interesting tidbits. Here's the other image we have from the book. I'll get us back there. Here we go. This is one of the dioramas that was photographed for the book. You see Frida with her husband, Diego Rivera, the very important Mexican artist, the Mexican muralist to whom she was married. And Frida, her look was very distinctive. It was very deliberately chosen to accentuate her indigenous heritage. So she wore more traditional clothing, and she wore her hair up in braids and in a style that was more not really contemporary at the time, but again was more traditional. Again, an homage to her roots and to the indigenous culture that was really being explored by Mexican artists at the time, explored and celebrated. There's our pet monkey. Okay. So another body of work I'll just point out really quickly. These are a group of paintings. Again, now we're looking at
8 o'clock.
Paintings on paper from the book Los Gatos. Let's see, it's the Black Cats on Halloween is how it translates. And it's not a book that she wrote, she illustrated it. And it's a delightful story about, skeletons, zombies, ghosts, and all the ghouls that come together for the annual Halloween ball, and how they all are coming together and gathering for their annual festivities. And the scariest part of the book is when the trio of human trick-or-treaters crashes the party. That seems to terrify everyone. But again, very joyous, very joyful. We've got this indigenous dress here again for the skeletons. Again, a great sense of motion, that luminous color, that kind of undulating, embracing, warm compositional use kind of brings you in and lends a sense of movement. Again, fun, playful. These are all great characteristics of her work. I'll bring us to this one too. Again, this is from the Black Cats on Halloween. This is a fun image. Again, we've got some flying people. Again, a recurring motif. These witches were actually modeled on her aunts. So that's kind of a fun tidbit. But again, the soft contours, the sense of motion, the round, rotund bodies, kind of doll-like features, the full moon. Again, these just kind of add again to the very kind of warm, magical, fantastical ambiance of these pieces. This exhibit comes to us from the National Center for Children's Illustrated Literature, which is actually based in Abilene, Texas. We do feature several traveling exhibitions every year in our galleries. And this one comes from Abilene. We've had a long-standing partnership with them. We host at least one of their exhibitions every year. They're beautifully organized. They celebrate children's literature and the best of children's literature and the best of art for children's books. And they come, we usually exhibit the books with the illustrations so patrons can come and look through the books, read through the books, see the connection between the text and the images, and enjoy them with their children and kind of share that magic, that kind of magical interplay of story and images that make children's books so important. But because of the current situation, I've put them all under glass so that we're not all touching things together. But here you see the actual books. We've looked at pieces from Dreamers. We've looked at pieces from Viva Frida. We'll look at pieces from Georgia and Hawaii in just a minute, and Harvesting Home. Okay, I'm going to take you to her first book that she authored and illustrated. And I've overshot the mark a bit here. So just a minute, and here's one of those labels where you can get a little more information, and these are all acrylic paintings on paper that we're going to look at. So Just a Minute, A Trickster Tale and Counting Book is the first book that she authored and illustrated. It's a really fun story about Grandma Beetle, who we see here, and her encounter with Senor Calavera, Mr. Skeleton, and how she is the trickster and kind of outwits him. And it's also a counting book, and you'll see why. I'll just point out Grandma Beetle. She's got this wonderful round shape. She's got this great spiral in her hair. Those round shapes, the spiral shapes, you'll see those again and again. It's almost like she has the Milky Way or the nighttime sky in her hair. And I love how Zhuji introduces kind of the mythological, the cosmological into her images. So the story is Senor Calavera, personification of death, comes comes to visit Grandma Beetle to tell her literally that her time is up. And he's kind of in sort of a witty way, wearing a watch here. Again, the title of the book is Just a Minute. He's got the features of a sugar skull that you see in the Day of the Dead imagery. So this is also tied into the Day of the Dead, the imagery, the story, the tradition of that in Mexico. But he comes to tell Grandma Beetle that, he's here to thank her. And she says, well, Senor Calavera, I would love to go, but give me just a minute. I have one floor, one house to sweep. And in this way, as we count through, she keeps on delaying him with her recitation of one floor to sweep, 2 pots of tea to brew, 3 pots of tamales to make, etc., as she is actually making preparations for her birthday party that is going to be attended by her 9 grandchildren. So she keeps on putting him off as she goes about all of her tasks. You see another image here. He's getting a little impatient. He's, okay, when are you going to be done with this? Well, I've got one more thing to do, or 2 more things to do. Well, at the end, he's been delayed as she makes these preparations, and her 9 grandchildren show up, and he decides that, he's going to let her have her birthday party. And he wants to attend her birthday party next year. So he's giving her a reprieve, and he'll see her next year. And that's how the story ends. And indeed, she did publish a sequel, 2018, called Just in Case. And this is another trickster tale. And this time, instead of a counting book, it's a Spanish alphabet book, and it's in English and Spanish. And we see Senor Calavera again. He's been invited to her birthday. He wants to attend. He's agonizing over the best present to bring her. He's visited by a ghost, and the ghost is trying to give him suggestions on presents. And Senor Calavera decides that, well, he's going to get a variety of presents, one that represents every letter in the alphabet. And so that's what he proceeds to do. And again, it's bilingual, so kids are learning words in Spanish and English. This is a fun little picture of Grandma Beetle and Senor Calavera together, surrounded by chrysanthemums, which are the flower of the Day of the Dead. Fun little image. So he's amassing all these presents, one for each letter. So dientes for teeth, ice cream, a tie, a ladder, etc., etc. And the ghost, Zelmiro, is accompanying him. Now, who is this ghost? Well, we'll find out. I mean, he is Senor Calavera already, so why wouldn't he have a ghost accompanying him? So we get to the point where Senor Calavera, again, looking at one of these beautiful acrylic on paper paintings. He's so loaded up, he hits a bump and everything flies off, all the items that he's accumulated that he thinks Grandma Beetle has to have, a picture of a luchador, an accordion, a ladder. And here we get a hint on who the ghost might be. Zelmiro. And it turns out, and here we see Grandma Beetle's birthday party a year later. Senor Calavera finally turns up. We see his little skeletal hand at the door. And he brings with him actually Zelmiro. And that turns out to be Grandma Beetle's late husband. She is abuelo, he is abuelo. And that was the perfect birthday present. And again, tying into the Day of the Dead holiday, the ceremony, the observance of honoring um, our ancestors and deceased family members. So a fun way to kind of introduce all those concepts as well as an alphabet book. So let's see. We just looked at those. There's some more of the books in the display cases. We're going to talk about the Georgia O'Keeffe book. This one is really fun. This is a book in which Juji is the illustrator. And I hope everybody knows that the Y-U-Y-A, or Y-U-Y-I, Morales, is pronounced Juji. That's who I'm referring to. We have three illustrations, again, acrylic on paper from her book about Georgia O'Keeffe. And this is entitled Georgia in Hawaii, and subtitled When Georgia O'Keeffe Went to Hawaii and Painted What She Wanted. So it's based on a true story, little known, about when Georgia O'Keeffe was hired by the United Pineapple Company, which later became known as Dole, to go to Hawaii and essentially draw and paint images of pineapples. So it was a commercial commission. And once Georgia got there, she was so enamored of the waterfalls, the black sand beaches, the flowers, all the beauty that's in Hawaii. You know, she didn't want to look at some sad pineapple or just stick on the plantation. She took off and explored all the beautiful wonders and painted what she saw there. So I can't zoom in on this one, but we see her in front of a waterfall with a parasol, some beautiful exotic flowers framing the corner, and she looks enraptured as she would be. And we'll see the two other pieces. We can zoom in on these. So another picture of her in Hawaii, enjoying the beauty and painting flowers, of course, for, you know, which she is most well known are her floral paintings, surrounded by heliconia and other flowers, little paintbrush in hand, totally encompassed by the beauty and by the environment. And here we see another great image of her actually painting. Oops, lost that. Need to get back there. This is a beautiful image, I think. Again, just totally surrounded with plant life, with flora, painting an image of the mountain and the waterfall. Again, these beautiful curved lines, the use of spirals and curved lines. Again, very inviting, very warm, the use of color, very, very luminous. I think we'll look at a few more pieces and then we'll move on to some of the other spaces. It's almost 8:15. I don't want to keep you too long or wear anyone out. How are we doing for time, Sharon? What do you think?
Right. If you could at least do 10 minutes on the other new space you've got as well.
Okay, sure. We'll look at one more book and then we'll move into the other galleries and then we'll do that kind of quickly and then take a quick look at the Irving Archives and Museum. So what we've got here are from her book, Nino Wrestles the World, about a little luchador, a little wrestler. Lucha Libre is a big tradition of wrestling in Mexico. And this is a story about little Nino. We're looking at a wonderful sketch here I'm not sure if that's ink or acrylic. I've seen info for both of it, but one of the working sketches, I mean, actually, and she refers to little Nino as her alter ego. And that the bad guys in the lucha libre kind of theatrical arena of wrestling are representing fears of one facing one's fears and conquering them. And speaking of bad guys in lucha libre, this is El Chamuco, the devil, one of the lucha libre characters. We've got some wonderful sketches and works in progress. Again, these are acrylic on paper. Again, one of our little Jolo dogs that we see in many of her pieces. Wonderful acrylic sketch. A little Nina, you can see more of a finished painting, and then you can see kind of the pencil outline here. This wonderful sketch of Nino in various wrestling moves, wrestling poses, and his little baggy underwear. He's kind of a little underdog, a little feisty guy. And she did another book as well about Nino and his horrible sisters. Rudos, little Nino and his horrendous hermanitas, his little horrible sisters. So a lot of fun. Okay, so I'm going to kind of move us along here. So we have an opportunity to look at all the spaces. So right now, if we were able to go through those doors, we'd go into the focus gallery, which is a smaller space, smaller gallery at the south end of the main gallery, its own separate little space. We have a whole separate lineup of exhibitions that we feature in there. And so this one is Kate Jenkins. She's a photography instructor at Northlake College, or Dallas College Northlake campus. We've got an exhibit of her work we've entitled Night Light, and they explore images taken at night. Nighttime is sort of a character of the photographs itself, as well as a dramatic element of the photographs themselves. And we have it organized around 3 different sections, but they're all related by unifying factor of VW buses. Kate belongs to a group of people that collect and drive and travel with their VW buses. And that's kind of the inspiration of all 3 of these bodies of work. She has some portraits of people that she knows through this VW bus community. This one's Ellen working on one of her VWs that actually looks like a bug. So we've got those portraits of people in the community. Then we have a group of portraits of these VW bus people going on camping trips together. But I think one of the, let me utilize this to full screen. So these are wonderful photographs that, again, there's kind of a sense of mystery of what exactly is going on. And these are composite photographs, so they're not straight photographs. I mean, they're kind of collaged together from different elements, so that she kind of creates these mysterious narrative-like moments of what exactly is going on. We've got this dramatic cosmic sky. We've got obviously the VW bus. We have this woman over here who's digging a hole. Why is she digging a hole? So it's just, it's more than just kind of a straight depiction or kind of a travel log. It's more of creating these kind of interesting scenarios and hinting at a story more than describing one, actually. This is another one of those Bus Fest pictures. You can see how she's put in all these images of cats So again, it's kind of ominous. We've got this sky going on again, this dramatic cosmic sky. We've got lightning. We've got this guy with a bird in hand. All these little cats lurking about and these cat eyes glowing. So they're fun images to study and kind of try to construct your own story that might go with them. And the third part of it are images that she took at Burning Man in 2018. We have a number of images from that. And she went, again, with her kind of VW bus group. They traveled there together. And Burning Man is a big festival out in the desert in Nevada. It's an annual event. It's like a whole city and a huge art installation that's built up from the ground up. It exists for a few weeks and then it's all taken down. So it's very ephemeral, and it's all about art and experience and self-expression and sort of creating this community with its own sort of space and rules and mores, but again, about self-expression, about art. And I mean, it's a daytime event as well, but at night is when it really kind of comes alive with all the lights out on this dark desert plain. So she's taken some dramatic photographs of many of the art installations. And again, you know, kind of utilizing the drama of night photography, but also incorporating night as sort of a character or an element in these stories and these photographs themselves. So we'll pop out of the focus gallery, and that will take us to the Dupree lobby, which is another one of our exhibit spaces. It's also the lobby for our Dupree Theater. And it is at the south end of the building. We currently have prints by Stephen Fouch, who is a professor of printmaking at University of Dallas here in Irving. He's also the chair of the art department. We first mounted this show back in February of 2020, but again, because of the pandemic, the lockdown, being closed for a while, we've decided to extend it now for almost a year. It's a really beautiful exhibit. I'll just kind of turn you around a little bit so you can kind of orient yourself. If you were to come into these south doors from the exterior, if you were to look through this way, it would take you to the focus gallery where we just were. There's the box office. So if any of you have ever been to the Dupree Theater for a performance, this is the gallery space that we utilize in the lobby. Just to point out a few pieces, Stephen is from the Midwest, and his work speaks a lot about the landscape and about the land and about his experience in the Midwest. And there's this great sense of the land, the horizon, the kind of sense of loneliness. There's really no humans in his landscape. It's all about the ground, the sky, the horizon line, kind of the austerity of it. I point out these pieces, and again, I'm gonna go to full screen so you can see a little bit better. So he is a printmaker. He works in woodcuts, intaglio, letterpress, various printmaking mediums. I like these pieces because they actually talk about the process of printmaking and all the materials that are involved. And there's a really interesting tension between the print, the work on paper that's presented in its own little frame on this backdrop of wood. And next to it, you actually see the carving in the wood that would be used for the matrix of making a print. So you really have a sense of materials, of process, and that kind of juxtaposition. And there's several of these, and they're a good size, as you can see. But again, they're very beautiful, kind of austere, desolate in their depiction of the landscape, kind of mysterious. But This is the print on paper that's inset into a larger piece of wood, and this element depicts the carved area of the wood that would be the matrix for a print. I'll take you to some of his color work. These are monoprints and collage, so he often uses a combination of media. These are small. The sizes, the scale of the work throughout the show is kind of medium to a large installation to smaller pieces. It's very, very interesting and very effective. He uses these repeating shapes in quite a bit of his work, these sort of ovals, these lozenges that sort of populate what we read as the sky. There's a great sense of a kind of movement. Is it rain? Are they clouds? Again, there's kind of that ambiguity. These shapes reappear. They could be natural shapes. They could be barns. They could be steeples. So there's kind of this shorthand and these symbols that reoccur through his work that talk about nature and about landscape and about architecture. I'll take you down to one of his big pieces here so you can see that, or larger pieces. Customs of the Sun. Again, just a great sense of atmosphere, of light, of sky. Again, are we looking at a natural form? Is this a man-made form? They're slightly ominous, and that makes an interesting contrast to this use of light, this flooded yellow light that we see. There's this bare or very faint indication of architecture here. Again, kind of a surrealistic take on landscape, very evocative, very poetic. Take us down this wall. I'd like to point out these pieces. I find them very intriguing. They're small. These are relief prints with debossing. And again, they visit these rural landscapes. Some of them are kind of a series that kind of repeat the imagery. But we see, roughly half of the paper is not inked. There's no color. We see the debossing, which is the actual opposite of embossing. So embossing is the pressure from behind a piece of paper that creates a raised image. We often see that in like embossed stationery with someone's initials. But debossing is kind of the opposite. The pressure is from the front, so there's an indentation. So there's a literal sense of texture and depth with these indentations. And then the top part of it is inked with this vibrant color. And there's a whole series of these. So the work is often about the materials of what it's made of, about the different processes, as much as the image and the subject matter itself. This series are actually the print matrices, meaning the plates on which that are carved, on which that are run through the printing press with paper to make the series of prints. But here we're seeing the wooden block itself. And so we can admire the textures as they're carved into it. So again, we have a sense of that process and the artist's hand and those repeating elements of sky, of land, of horizon, and these repeated marks in the sky, again, more like dashes this time rather than the ovals or the lozenges. And one more group I'll point out. So this is an installation at the end of the wall, rather large. It's entitled Gift Horse for Tim and Henry. And so this piece is actually a digital piece. It's made with Adobe Illustrator. It's digital printmaking, although each of these marks is actually hand made and hand manipulated in the computer. So
8:30.
it is very intensive. It's just a different way of making the image. And in talking about this piece, on the landing page for the 360 tour, there's actually an ICT and interview in which Stephen speaks about his work, which is very interesting. This piece was made at a time in which he was experiencing great loss as well as great joy in his life. He had lost a friend, but his son had just recently been born. And so he was kind of dealing with these extremes of loss and of joy and feeling a little untethered and a little whipped by the forces of fate. And this piece kind of reflects that. And so we see these are rows of prints, of works on paper that are hung in layers. They're only tethered to the wall by these pieces of wood. They kind of float out the wall, and they're actually moved by whatever air currents are in the space. So there's a kinetic element. And you can see with these how kind of the heavy black and white, the density of them might be expressing sorrow, loss, heaviness, while the area in which is lighter, less dense, we have the marks with color, might be exploring or expressing joy, the joy of life, and how they kind of play off one another. Again, sort of reflecting how the experience of life might be. You know, this is how they look on the wall. It was a little washed out, overexposed, so you can't see them very well. So that's a little bit of Stephen Fouch. His exhibit continues through February 20th. We're going to move ourselves out of the Dupree lobby. We're going to take a quick look at the Carpenter lobby and the work that's hanging there right now. Let's see, there you are. So Dupree lobby's our big lobby for the big theater on the north side. And currently we have photographs by Lee Salutis. He's a photographer who's based in Virginia for quite a while, well, California for a very long time, then Virginia, and now he's recently relocated to Nevada. His background is in electrical engineering, so he has a background in technology, but he also studied art and has photographed most of his adult life. He has quite an impressive resume of exhibits. And I think his work shows a lot of his interest in science and in phenomenon, both natural and man-made, and the passage of time. So we're just going to look at a few of his pieces. Again, these are photographs. And I combined two bodies of his work, signs and symbols, as well as surfaces. And what they depict are actually surfaces, man-made surfaces that have been kind of salvaged and recovered and depicted in desert areas. So this body of work is from Nevada, California, Utah. He likes to kind of immerse himself in the environments that he's exploring through photography. And these are just very up close, tight details of corroded metal from either buildings, cars, or signs. And they're, you know, really beautiful, luscious. The colors are incredible. The texture is amazing. They're all 20 by 25 inches. So there's a great kind of uniformity in their size. And this element of kind of this microscopic zooming into these textures. And at first glance, you might think, you know, is this an aerial view? Am I looking at water? Am I looking at a geological feature? You know, what am I looking at? It brings you in for a closer look. But again, this is corrosion on metal. And his work, you know, really kind of explores man's intervention in the environment, sort of imposing himself on the environment, but also about nature and time and decay acting upon man's creations, man's impositions, and kind of taking it back by sort of exploring this corrosion, decay, and such. Again, they're very beautiful. The colors are really lush. There's, I think, a lot of influence of and a lot of similarities if we think of abstract expressionist artist and color field artist, Barnett Newman, Clifford Still. I mean, there's definitely a very painterly aspect to these as we enjoy kind of the multi-layered complexity of these images about time, nature, man, weather, decay. So the Carpenter Lobby is actually a two-storied space. We have, I believe, 37 of these photographs in there. And again, kind of combine two bodies of work. We have a lot of pieces that also incorporate text, found text from railroad cars. So in a sense, it's kind of found art that's transformed into these beautiful painterly images. So, I'll take us upstairs a bit. Again, it's a two-storied space. And so lots to look at. It's really always interesting and fun for me to sort of incorporate the pieces into the architecture of the space to kind of make it work and make it tell a story, and for pieces to sort of relate to one another. So that is the Carpenter Lobby in Lee Salutis. The photographs will be up in person through February 27th, but they can also obviously be viewed on virtually through these 360 tours. Okay, and then last but not least, I'm just going to give you a peek of the newest addition to the Department of Arts and Culture for the City of Irving, which is the Irving Archives and Museum. So this opened back in early 2020, and then had to be closed for a while, but a very exciting space, long awaited, that houses both the archives for the City of Irving, the historic archives, as well as a permanent exhibit that tells the story of Irving from its pioneer days to the present day as a vital, diverse, growing city. So from the train depot from 1903 and pioneer days up to Las Colinas as an international city, it tells that story. It's housed in part of what used to be the old library, the old Central Library, which is next to City Hall. And what you're looking at through these rotating images is of course, the exterior. We have a glimpse into the community gallery and then into the permanent exhibit. So in addition to the permanent exhibit, which takes up a good part of the museum, and the archives are, like I said, housed there. You have both physical archives, ephemera, photographs, documents, some works of art and artifacts, but a lot of digital material is housed in there. The permanent exhibit, we have the community space, which you saw up here, which is kind of a multi-use space. It has a wonderful bank of windows that look out over the Veterans Memorial. But we also have a temporary gallery space that will and is hosting a series of temporary exhibitions. One that just closed is a touring exhibition called Apron Strings Ties to the Past, which is all about aprons and their place as artifacts that tell a lot about our history, about women's place domestically, as well as in society. Um, Also talking about the applied arts versus the fine arts, because many of these aprons are handmade or hand embellished. And really kind of a launching point. We're talking about a lot of different things in our history and our society. This exhibition has closed, but again, one can view it through the wonder of technology and these 360 tours. So this is the temporary gallery space at the museum. We're seeing some installation shots of aprons. Really some fun pieces. This goose, well, this is going to kind of launch me maybe where I don't want to go. So we're just going to have to kind of go with the flow here. But wonderful examples of different aprons that have been handmade, hand sewn, hand embroidered, hand embellished. We have kind of traditional aprons, and aprons transcend almost all times and all cultures, and really provide a powerful link between who's the caregiver, who keeps people cared for and fed, gender roles, what is one's place in the home, what is one's place outside of the home. There's some traditionally what's thought of as men's aprons as well, the chef aprons, the barbecue aprons. We have examples of those. Take you a little bit further into the space here. So you can see more examples. There's a lot of text panels too that you can, and labels that talk about the individual pieces that you can pull up and read. There was also a really great component to the exhibit for the community to participate. And let me take you to that area. So here we are up here. So in addition to this kind of historic traveling exhibition, sort of exploring all these historical, cultural, social kind of ideas and images, we also invited people in Irving to loan aprons from their own collections, their own families' collections, and to tell us stories about those aprons. And the one we see depicted here, let's see if I can get a better view, is from Sharon Barbosa, who's a very active member of the community, former city council member. She was also on the arts board for a number of years. This was her father's apron from the Army. And so by sharing her artifact and sharing her story, we kind of look into that aspect of, again, male cooks and, food service in the military, and, how that's part of one's identity and how that translated to, the family story and the family dynamic. And there's a wonderful little write-up here about it, which I can get on it. I would scroll through it. And so it's about her father serving in the Army and about this being his actual apron. So if we peek through these doors, so the temporary gallery space can be secured for more high security exhibitions. We can look through another kind of interim space that sort of serves as a lobby, gathering space, an extension of the community gallery, a place for programming, for gathering school groups, when they come back and are able to take tours to tour the permanent exhibit. And this was mounted around the time also in which we were noting and celebrating the
Page 45.
anniversary of the suffragette of the 19th Amendment. So there's some nice connections here with uh, women's rights and women's history and um, the Vote for Women movement and celebration of that centennial. So I think that's what I've got for you. It's been a long trek. Thanks for sticking with me. And I guess we can go to the chat and answering any questions people might have. I'm going to stop sharing my screen at this point, so we should be able to see the chat, hopefully. Okay. Sharon, do you want
Okay.
to pull those up, or what do you want to do?
Just gonna try to.
I can see them right now.
Yeah, see everybody.
Okay, great. Some nice comments and thanks. All the participants can view the chat if you want to click on that and look.
Well, I want to thank you for all the narrative. You're great at that. I really appreciate it. You really enhance the art, I think.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I a lot of practice doing it, and I really enjoy it. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be with everyone this evening and to talk about the Art Center and about the current exhibitions. And feel free to contact me anytime by email or by phone. Sharon has my contact information. You can also find me through our website.
And also tell them about your Tuesday noon group.
Sure. Well, actually, Robert and I were chatting about that earlier. Oh, thank you, Judy. I'm so glad you were able to join us. She says, thank you for a great tour. Yeah, it's fun to see you. Thank you. So Tuesdays, I have a group called Lunch and Learn. Anybody can join. We meet by Zoom these days. And it's just very informal. We talk about all things art related. Our launching point is usually a current exhibition at the Art Center, whether it's an artist or a medium or a topic. And we just kind of go from there. We kind of expand outward to a more national or international scope. We look at a lot of images. I'll do a PowerPoint occasionally. We look at a lot of videos. And then we talk, we have a conversation, and everyone can contribute. And it's really all about participating, about having a conversation, about connecting. And anybody's welcome to join. Just email me and I can get you on the Zoom invite
I
list.
just added to the comments your email address. So.
Okay, thank you. Good.
Lunch and Learn starts at noon, Marcy. I don't know if you mentioned that.
Yes, that is helpful information. So from noon to 1:30, you're welcome to eat lunch or have a snack. You can participate as much as you want to. You can turn your camera on, turn it off, mute yourself, unmute yourself, talk or participate as much as you want to. But it's just really a fun time to connect and to talk about art and art related things.
I'd like to mention one thing. If people haven't been to the Arts Center, Marcy does a fantastic job of putting exhibits together. And you can see from her walkthrough tonight that there's a wide variety of looks and methods and techniques. And you can come back to the Arts Center every third or fourth month and you'll see almost an entirely new collection of works. And I try to always remember to thank Marcy for the great job that she does putting those shows together.
Thank you, Robert. Yeah, you're very kind. Robert.
we'll see you guys get to host Texas and Neighbors again this year.
Yes, this will be our 36th year. And yeah, it should be a fantastic show. Last year it had to be all virtual because of the pandemic. But this year we have high hopes for having the work physically in the gallery, hung on the walls. So I'm looking forward to that. It'll be another great show. And anybody that's interested in that, Irving Art Association, the website, the Art Center's website, texasandneighbors.com. You can get information about entering it if you are an artist and would like to be considered. It is a juried show. It's very prestigious. We have about 600 entries a year. Is that right, Sharon?
It was close to 700 last year.
Wow. And about 80 pieces are selected. So it is.
With the sculpture added in, it was 85 pieces.
Ah, okay. That's right. It was virtual, so it kind of doesn't
Right.
in my mind the same way as when, physically being in there, moving things around and helping to install them. So
Right.
yeah, it's always a great show. We hope we'll be able to have a reception and award ceremony, but that may have to be a virtual component this year for everyone's safety. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, thank you very much, Marcy. The Irving Art Association is hoping to hold more of these virtual Zoom programs. I'm thinking the next one I know we have scheduled for sure will be in March. It will be the virtual exhibit for the Persian art exhibit. Virtual reception, I'm sorry, for the Persian art exhibit. And I'm thinking about maybe getting some artists to demonstrate skills too. And we can do that once a month.
Yeah, that would be
Marcy,
great.
do you want to mention the new 5-minute video virtual tour thingies that you're starting?
Yeah, sure. Well, before March 2020, we were offering drop-in tours twice a week, every week, docent-led or staff-led tours of the exhibitions. And of course, that had to come to a halt. So now we're kind of converting that experience virtually, and we're going to do weekly short little art talks in which our docents and teen volunteers and staff and artists, when we can enlist them in the project, do quick little art talks focusing on one work of art in an exhibit. We're going to call it Gallery Spotlight. And it'll be released weekly on Facebook and our other social media platforms. And it should be fun, brief enough so it's not onerous to watch, informative and fun. And again, focusing on one work of art so we can really take a closer look at it.
Oh, I look forward to that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Marcy, and hope to do this again.
Yeah.
You are very welcome. It was my pleasure. It was really fun to be with you all. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I know it was kind of long, but I enjoyed it. And good to see you all. Take care.
Okay.